2019 Community Redevelopment Agency meeting to order. If we would stand for the invocation, Commissioner James will lead us, and then we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance.
All right. Dear Lord, we thank you once more and again for your grace and your mercy that you have supplied to us today to allow us to see another day, another beautiful day, Lord. And we know that you're going to give us the knowledge, the know-how, the will, and everything that we need to do what is right to nourish the city of High Springs. We are growing, and we thank you for that. We are planning for the future, and we thank you for that. And we know that you're going to lead us down the road that we need to go to make these plans materialize. So, Lord, just continue to guide us. Bless all those that are concerned, that are connected with these projects until the end. These things we ask in the name of your Son, Jesus. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, Jenny, would you do roll call, please?
Chair Lavin.
Here.
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 Thank you. Can I get a motion on approval of this agenda tonight?
The only thing I want to add is just the word consider. I left the word consider off the business item.
Okay.
Consider approval?
Yeah.
So,
I think we can handle that.
Yes.
I'll make a motion that the agenda be approved with the correction just stated as
Second.
printed.
Okay, second.
okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. And then how about, we have two sets of meeting minutes. Can we do that in one motion, or do we need to do it separately? We can do it in one. November 8th and January 10th meeting minutes.
I move that we accept the November 8th and 2018 and January 10th, 2019 minutes.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Okay, and then the first item of business is consider approval of Martin, Latimer, and Hallbeck and CHW as qualified firms to be selected on a per-project basis by the High Springs Community Redevelopment Agency. And I'll turn it over to Christina at this point.
Yeah, last week on Wednesday, the selection committee had an opportunity to, both firms came in and did a presentation in addition to the submittal that is in your packet. Both have extensive experience. The group out of St. Augustine, they do a lot of storytelling, a lot of community branding. Of course, CHW has extensive experience in roadway and streetscape projects. Both of them highly qualified, and both would be an asset to be able to call upon to do our projects. Were there any other? Those were the only two. Okay.
They were very impressive, as I just told you a while ago, extremely impressive.
And it looks like CHW has done extensive work in and around our area, and the thing that I really like about them is they have a local office with people very close by that we could have instant or pretty good communication with. The young man from the other firm, I believe, grew up in High Springs, so he has a more intimate knowledge of High Springs, but doesn't live here now, and they're in Jacksonville. My question is there any conflict with having the two firms? Is there any conflict with working, different portions of this with different firms?
I don't think so, just because the nature of the amount of projects that we have and the phasing that could be done and the nature is somewhat different. It's not uncommon to have, like, say, for example, CHW has that relationship with FDOT and they do the streets, and then, we have Market Square done by somebody that, brings in the caboose and tells the local story. I think it could work very well. I mean, especially with, each project, the scope will be very specific to what's being done. And, I don't see there being a problem with that.
So will you divide it out and then phase it or something? Like you'll pick different areas and kind of do a phase by phase plan?
A couple different approaches we could take. Like if there was a particular project that maybe both would be, we could ask them for quotes for, if there's anything to do and look at both submittals again. The good thing is we have them to call upon. And as far as, like even for example, so from the group out of St. Augustine, we were talking this morning, and they're about as far as doing the proposal or the conceptual for the Market Square with the trails coming online and all that. So they were talking about maybe doing just a preliminary conceptual and a price point, just to kind of give us an idea of what we're looking at. And I think that's key for both because most of these are going to have to be phased, probably well phased because of the cost and the scope of what all we'd like to do. So.
Okay.
Any discussion from the audience?
Well, if there are no.
Do you have any discussion or questions?
I think they're great.
Okay.
All right.
I move that we approve the contract or the firms to be selected on a per project basis by the High Springs Community Redevelopment Agency. That's Martin, Latimer, and Hallback, and CHW.
CHW. And I second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. Okay. Next item on the agenda is a discussion of the Board of County Commissioners Rails to Trails meeting outcome. We met, Christina and I, and we were very fortunate to have Sue Weller come and join us since she's got some history on that project with two of the people from their environmental department and Chris Dawson, who is from their planning department, correct, Christina? And so at the January meeting, the Board of County Commissioners meeting, the County Commission wanted their staff to come back to us because we are a stakeholder financially and in location-wise on this project to make sure that we were comfortable with the direction they were going. There's been some renegotiation on the contract because the appraisal numbers came in high and there were some environmental studies done that the difference in the amount to mitigate those environmental pieces was different in CSX's opinion and the Board of County Commissioners' opinion. So there was a lot of discussion at that meeting that we were all at, and then the gentleman from the Trust for Public Lands, talked about how having contamination in a railway is a normal thing that happens and something that's dealt with whenever they do a rails to trails corridor. Board of County Commissioners, their primary concern was that we didn't have any wells that were going to be affected, and all of that area is on city water. It's that east-west corridor that's the area that needs more mitigation. And so Christina's gotten a map of the water lines showing that there's no wells that, there's no personal wells that would be in jeopardy there. And then also that we were aware that there was contamination on that site. So do you have anything to add to that, Christina, as far as what we discussed the other day?
No, I think it was a very productive meeting. We just generally talked about some of the things that they were looking at uses, like how we would use it, and they were talking about down the road we would have an interlocal in place that would allow us as a local entity to design it to our needs, and yeah.
They did give us some advice that, like, we originally might have thought about a playground, but that wouldn't be a good fit because of the environmental issues, that we wanted to put things like landscaping in there. We wanted to, where it was paved for the trail is, fine, but we could work around that. So that gives us some direction for our design, and they would do some sort of a master plan and then an agreement with us so we wouldn't have to go back to them every time we wanted to put some landscaping in or do any kind of park features, benches. We would be able to work within a master plan that they would work out with us before any development of the trail was done.
And they also did mention too, like in the area that we own, that we're free to do as we need, and then also if there was an opportunity in the future, if we wanted to mitigate an area, we could bring it up to, if there was a different use intended. For now, like they said, landscaping, archways, those types of things would be great, and really just beautify the trail.
Okay, sorry.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
This was at the second meeting you had with them?
Yes, they came out Tuesday.
Mhm.
They came out Tuesday and met with Christine and I and Sue here.
Okay. Because when I left the meeting, the county meeting, I didn't have a good feeling at all. In fact, as I mentioned, that one comment that Mike Byerly made was that he was just as soon see the money come closer to town. And kind of ruffled my feathers because I thought, well, we're a town, you know.
It's
what are
real
you
close
talking
to
about?
town.
Really, I really took exception to that, but didn't dare get up and say anything about it. So.
Well, what they presented to us was that, they feel positive that this is going to work out. They feel that May would be an ambitious goal, with that deadline we have with the Market Pavilion. But they feel like this is going to be worked out. But the Board of County Commissioners specifically wanted us to be part of that conversation, and they wanted their staff to come and meet with us, to make sure that we were aware of these limitations. Like, if we did want to put a playground in that corridor, we would have to do further mitigation and move some of that soil, and we would have to make a decision whether we wanted to invest that kind of money, because they wouldn't do that. They'll do the capping that is the standard for that rail corridor. There's also a larger connectivity plan, which Edgar talked about when we went to the League of Cities meeting Tuesday night, but they discussed that, that they're tying together all these corridors, so they would like us as part of our redevelopment, as this corridor comes through, to think about how we were going to get the bikes from that corridor over to 441 and make that part of our plan as well, because they're trying to connect all these corridors in the state together. So that's something that we can work with these planners on, making sure there's a bike lane that somebody could get from the rail corridor over to 441, so that they could access then that bike corridor. So I felt like, at least my feeling the other day was that they're still very much going in that direction, and it's a numbers thing at this point, if they can come to that agreement. And they're going to discuss it again at the February 12th meeting, at the regular Board of County Commissioners meeting. So staff was to meet with us prior to that, so they could bring back information that they had met with us, and how they want to know how that corridor tied into our redevelopment. And we told them it was a substantial piece of our redevelopment, and that we have been waiting to spend this CRA money, to develop that area. So that was, the High Springs Brewery. I see a sign over there on the old welding building. One of the reasons they invested there was because they know that corridor is going to go right by there. So we're already getting private investment in the community as a result of that potential corridor. So, and I agree with you that that commissioner did not seem positive at all. But the other ones, I believe, are behind it.
Possibly so. I could maybe misread some of them, but perhaps not.
Would you have anything else to add to it?
No, I think everything's going along very positively. I think it's just a matter at this point. There's some questions I have as far as, if we are to come with them, like if we do this conceptual, I think at this point, we just kind of, start out with the general landscaping and some of the, archways and things like that. But moving forward, there are those opportunities to upgrade and do other things. And so as far as, direction that we're giving to the firms to do these conceptual plans, it might not be a bad idea, to follow up. But otherwise, everything seemed very good.
Their staff is very much for this purchase,
Well, just a point of interest there. Their staff was very much for and recommended on a long ago situation with the cat sanctuary here. They recommended that it be removed, and the board decided to keep it. So that's why, I felt bad for the board, the planning, the staff,
right,
because they had done a lot of hard work on this, and then boom, they just shut it down. So that's been an experience I've had. That's why the staff does their job, and then it's up to the commission,
I've made a commitment to go to that February 12th meeting. Christina is going to go. And I think we were going to reach out to Sue Weller to see if she would be there, because she has that historical perspective. So anybody that can go, because if they realize like Mr. Booth said, those people with the yellow shirts and the chairs, if they realize there's public support for it, sometimes that sways them,
Yeah,
to,
people will get out and it's gonna be the morning session, right?
yes,
Okay.
9, I don't know where on that agenda, but that early, it's not the
Oh,
nighttime.
that's fine, that's not a problem.
Yeah.
But sometimes they have things at night too, and I just make sure.
We just, I apologize for being late. Our investment is still at 300,000.
Mhm.
Over 5 years, it's up to 60,000. In addition to what else do we start doing? What other money up front do we have to put into it?
Yep.
Nothing. So the landscaping and everything, is that ours within our boundaries? Is that
Yeah.
ours?
Yeah, and we do have money set aside for that.
Okay, that's all. That's all.
Yeah.
I don't need to. I trust you. I'm just. I mean, I trust you. But I mean, it's just saying. I didn't get a chance to look at this. I apologize, but I think it's a great deal, and I know we're going to talk about the indemnification thing at the council meeting, commission meeting.
They're still working that particular clause out with CSX, and that was something they said that their attorney wasn't comfortable, county attorney wasn't comfortable with what CSX had presented them, so I'm not sure that we can even speak to that at this point.
We're really not saying, we're just supporting the project, and we agreed with the idea that they would identify
You know,
the county.
the
But
word of the
truth
week.
is, we're not part of it. We're just really saying we support them.
Right.
And
Right.
so that shouldn't, and that on the 12th, because they asked for it. I realized the staff didn't, but the county commissioners did. So we need to do that. And we can just say, yep, you went through that process, you asked for it. And the council is 100% for that project.
Let's just clarify me for this, because obviously maybe we take number one off the agenda for the commission meeting, because we're talking about. I'm just joking.
He wants to get this meeting done tonight.
So it says indemnifying Alachua County. Who is indemnifying?
All right,
CSX. Where do we fall into this?
We don't.
So just follow me in this. So I'm just trying to figure this thing out. Discussing projects indemnifying Alachua County from any future groundwater. So who is the body who's going to indemnify them? CSX?
CSX.
Okay. So why is it coming to us?
Because they asked.
They just wanted us to make sure, they want to make sure we knew that
Yeah.
was part of this whole
Okay.
negotiation
Yeah,
thing. That
That's
they
what I thought. It was
Yeah.
CSX and them. I apologize. I was confused as why are we agreeing to indemnify when we
Right.
don't own the
No.
land?
That's absolutely correct.
They-
We're just saying we support the idea.
They wanted to make sure we didn't have private wells in that corridor
Yeah,
and
that's-
citizens that were going to be affected by that. And if we did, that we were willing to put them on city water.
Right.
But we don't.
I'm good.
So that was their concern, and I think that was Commissioner Hutchinson. He didn't want
Right.
Well, agreed.
anyone that might be affected water-wise to not have a way out. And we have gotten the maps, and everybody in that corridor is already hooked up to city water. So, and our wells are nowhere near that,
Right.
you know.
And I know that you said that last meeting as far as on the deal on the water. So I mean,
Right.
I wasn't. That's what sort of confused me, and I apologize on the deal. Is like, why are we indemnifying them?
No.
So I
I
didn't think
also
so.
think they didn't realize that most of our cities on city water. They still have that idea we have budget.
We're not close to town.
Yeah, that's right. We're not close to town out there. But now there is one individual on
Right.
15th Street. They've already tested hers.
It's okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. I'm good.
Okay.
So, I think they were just looking for support, that
That's
we
all they were
wanted
looking
them
for.
to
That's
continue moving forward with the project.
So, yeah, that
Okay.
resolution.
We're good.
Okay. I'm with you. I just wanted to make sure because the language.
I know.
I couldn't put the pieces together. Part of the deal. They didn't. The puzzle pieces didn't go together. Thank you.
Anything else? Okay. Any further discussion? Okay. Hopefully, that February 12th meeting, they'll come to some sort of agreement between CSX and the county
Yeah.
and maybe have a closing date I'm not sure.
I would hope so, because they came to an agreement on the price.
Oh, that day at the meeting on the,
Yeah, they did, but
So-
the guy was on his cell phone, and, but anyway, it's kind of bizarre, but they came to an agreement on the price, and so I would hope that they would move forward.
okay. I think this indemnification, that was the big sticking point.
Yeah,
So, okay.
because CSX is saying you can't test the water. The problem is, they were afraid the county would test and find something, and then pull out, and you got CSX with the contamination.
And there's nobody else that wants to buy that, so they
No,
should
so
stick
can't.
with.
I mean, really, it's in a federal program.
Right.
So, yeah, only the county.
One thing the gentleman from their environmental did do is he sent us a link to something in Santa Fe, New Mexico, and there's actually, the federal government has an EPA brownfield program called BUILD, B-U-I-L-D, and it's money that's been set aside from some of those Superfund sites specifically for small governmental areas that don't have big pockets for people to apply for grants. But if there was an area in the city affected by that contamination that affected private property, not public property, then we could go for one of these build grants and get money to do an assessment and help facilitate a brownfield grant if that ever came to pass. I know that the High Springs Brewing Company over at the old Archie's Welding had to have environmental studies done, and they passed their environmental studies. So I don't believe that the private property has any contamination, but there is some federal money out there, especially contiguous to a corridor like that, and it's specifically designated for smaller communities like ours. So that is something. Christina, maybe you could send that to the other commissioners, that link that he sent to us. And it was really interesting what they did with an old rail corridor. It became a really vital commercial district. So.
And they briefly discussed the roundhouse area, and they were talking, I guess there was a group at one time wanting to do some sort of museum or something, but that area might be, down the road where the concentrations may be a little bit higher, might be.
The state actually has identified. They actually identified the spill that went on there 50 years ago, and that will probably become a state problem. It would be really the state that's taking that out of our jurisdiction. Certainly not on the court.
And I think that section's going to be fee simple, and the county's going to own it. It's not going to be that rails conservancy thing that the other part is.
It's a connection out to Poe.
But more than likely, all the foundations will be taken down. Clear cut.
Okay, any more questions? Discussion? Okay. Chair report. I have, I talked to Christina and Mr. Booth about this. After our last meeting, Mr. Hankins, the CLT gentleman, the director of the Communities of Care CLT, he and I have been having conversations and dialogues. And Corey Harris was here that night from NHDC as well. And then Alachua County Housing, Ron Hall was here. They've been talking, and they are talking about the lots that we're clearing in Douglas and possibly that one in Patricia Gardens to do an initial 9 or 10 houses over there as a community land trust and working together to make that happen. So they've been having some conversation about that, all these parties, and they are going to be coming to us likely in the near future with some sort of proposal to do that, where the community land trust would ask for the land and it would stay in perpetuity in the trust. Stephen Weeks, the Alachua County Housing staff of the Board of County Commissioner, has told Mr. Hankins that they're very excited about it and they are willing to put up down payment and closing cost assistance to get people in affordable homes if they can do this. And then somehow CLT partnering with Corey's group over at NHDC to do the actual building, because they already have the contractors and plans and whatever in place. So there's a possibility that those 9 or 10 lots could be starting to move forward with development, which helps us with the expansion of the CRA that we're looking for that Douglas neighborhood. And Mr. Weeks reached out to me this afternoon after talking to Gary, because I've told Gary that's not part of our CRA yet. We're working on that. We've done these studies. We have to present this. And so Mr. Weeks reached out to me, and we had a conversation, and he wanted to know how he could help facilitate that. So this 8 or 9 lots, whatever it turns out to be, could literally be the doorway that might open the door for us to get the county's support on this expansion. So I expect that we'll be seeing and hearing from them. They'll be coming to us as a board. Mr. Hankins very excited about this because he wants this to be like his, what did he say to me? You know, it's going to be their first project and he wants to do it really well. And because this is going to set the path for whatever they can do throughout the county. So he's really committed to being invested in the community, to being out there in the neighborhood, finding out what the people want. You know, I told him there's already a board assembled. He's very excited about it. So I expect that he'll be coming to us, you know, over the next month or two. But I reiterated to him that he has to bring it to the board, that the board has to make those decisions. And you know, the board has to decide whether to enter agreements, et cetera, et cetera. So I think it just is all falling in place time-wise. You know, we're going to clear these lots. You know, NHDC's already come out here in the neighborhood now, and they're doing 3 on Railroad Avenue, so they're ready to be able to work out here with their people. Somebody's got some money, I guess. I don't know. So it's very exciting, and it's like it all spurred out of that meeting, that last workshop that we had prior to our CRA meeting. All of this conversation began, and so it's very likely that we could start seeing development over there, you know, within this fiscal year, maybe. But that would be the impetus to really start some change. And so I think that's very exciting. And you know, I can't copy any of you on that, but like I forward it to Christina, and then we'll forward, you know, she can forward things to you as they come. But I think it's just, you know, Mr. Booth's been working over there, Byron's been working over there for years, and I think it's just the right people coming in now at this time, and they're ready to do something. So, right?
And I think it's a good time, you know, with the end of the year report coming up to kind of really, you know, have that positive vision of, you know, this direction for the future. Because at this time, you know, in order for us to get this on the radar, the more that we can do to prepare that and to lay that foundation now, the better we're going to be, I think, time-wise, and getting it into place. And especially with the rail corridor coming online, I mean, what a tremendous opportunity, you know, for redevelopment, you know, for mobility, everything. It's all really
Sound like the timing is good
Yep.
to get it started.
I think
And
so.
you've got the 3 people that you need from the main organizations agreeing to work together to make it happen.
And the really good part, if it does go to the Community Land Trust, the investment we make it as the lot, and that down payment assistance and closing cost stays with the property. It doesn't leave. If they sell that house, those things stay with the house. They don't go with the person who sells it. So that public investment, whether it's our investment or the county's investment or a federal investment, it stays right here in this community, and then it helps the next person going in that house. And that's the part that I think is so amazing about that land trust idea is those down payment assistance and everything, it stays with the property, you know, and we don't lose that to them taking that to another house in another neighborhood.
and
You
that
know,
improvement sets the stage for the market possibly come online then, you know, the next year. And yeah, it's important.
do you have any information on those other lots? You were going to reach out to the tax
I
collector?
have.
Okay.
Off. I mean, you know, it's not an immediate process. In fact, he is in the rears for 50 lots,
Okay.
you know, but it has to go through that whole process that the tax collector has. So I asked him to look at that. young gentleman that inherited them has not.
Right. So is he going to get back with you to let you know a timeline, or?
Yeah, this time. I know. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or discussion about that? Okay, so I'll turn it over to Christina then.
Yeah, this morning we had a wonderful presentation with the Kiwanis Club. We talked about accomplishments and goals and just briefly touched on citywide visioning and the economic development component we're going to add in with that. And so talked a little bit about what to expect from that, you know, kind of just generally hit on some economic development topics. Like we'll look at location quotients and to see if we have a concentration compared to the national sectors, industry sectors. We'll look at, you know, if there's been any economic growth in any particular sector. And so all of that, you know, it just basically tells us where we're strong. When I did one for Newberry over a decade ago, at the time agriculture, of course, was figuring prominently. At the time, their direction was more towards recreation. But it's just really neat to see. I mean, it's a good tool to kind of back up, you know, I know we have a lot of interest in environmental and natural resources here, so it'll be interesting to see what the numbers tell us and then kind of begin that conversation and move forward with economic development.
Is that something that's in a digital format that you could send us? What you
I have to do the calculations first, but
okay.
I will, yeah.
Okay, I'd be interested in seeing what you presented to them.
Well, yeah, we just talked about, like, so on the visioning, that's when we'll actually do it together.
Okay, okay. All right. Anything else? Okay. How about from the commission members? You have any questions, comments? Okay. So our next meeting is 2 weeks out, 1 week out? Not next week, a week after. We have a CRA meeting the 7th
Yeah, so
at 6. Okay.
that's not
No,
totally a
that's-
CRA one, because I have to use here, make you a presentation,
Okay.
and then, you know, kind of all together, because all of it has to do with vision.
Okay. All right. So that's at 6, and then the visioning part's at 6:30, right? Okay. Okay, and the audience, come up. We've been waiting for you.
Yvonne Andrews. I'm still concerned about what is the time frame. Are you all planning on reconnecting the gazebo? I'm still concerned about the power being reconnected back to the gazebo. What's the status about that?
So I think the gazebo is kind of temporary over there until we get the market pavilion. Is that correct? Is my
Probably, because really it was moved because of the cat.
yeah.
And so it's just kind of placed over there.
And the pavilion's kind of going over there, right?
It is, and then we were going to, in part of the visioning, they could decide where that gazebo needs to go.
Mm-hmm.
So that was good.
And I think they don't want to spend the money to run the electric until we know where it's going to actually be. Because,
Is that
yeah,
what you're saying?
right, because
Yeah.
that market square is going right over there, or that pavilion is going right over there, like right next to where that gazebo is sitting. And they may end up moving that.
Right, because it's very mobile. We found out you can really move it.
We could move it from one place to the next month,
we could.
each
Yes.
month, right? We could have a,
Some
like-
connect places
Right.
for electricity, different places. That you
right, so, did you need electric in it for something?
Well, a couple of people have asked me about it because they like to sit out in the gazebo. I had electricity, but I was using a cord to run that electricity during the holidays. But some, I don't know if the kids or what it is, keep unplugging it. But they like sitting there late in the afternoon. And one day I stopped by there. They asked me, why is there no electricity there in the afternoon? And I told them I would check and find out what's going on about it. So this is why I asked about it.
Is there any way to put temporary electric out there?
Well, we have talked to Clay Electric about putting it in there, or apparently it's going to be somewhat expensive, so we want to know
Where it's going to be.
where it's really going to stay before we put an underground line.
And part of the earlier discussion we had was about the landscape and lighting plan for that CRA district, which will include significant electrical upgrades because
I just keep plugging the lights that I have up there. The kids, like I say, the kids.
no, we're going to get lights over there.
The
We're going to
kids-
get lights over there.
I put Christmas lights up, which they was very pleased about that. But for some reason, the kids keep unplugging it, so I just keep plugging it back up for them there.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Thank you for caring for the gazebo. Okay, if there's nothing else, then we can adjourn this meeting and get a cup of coffee before the next one. And I can pass my gavel to the mayor.
All right.